All right. Hello, everybody. I have a very special guest today, Melanie Murphy Richter, who is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and the director of communications at L-nutra, which is the parent company of Prolong and another company she's going to speak to
L-nutra.
about
Yes. Yes.
L-nutra.
Yes.
And so thank you so much, Melanie, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah, she's sitting outside on this beautiful spring day. And so I just thought I'd pick her brain.
Yeah.
And so thank you. So just to like get the definition of, what you understand fasting is and how people that are tuning in to delineate between the intermittent fasting, the time restricted eating, and the fasting mimicking diet, can you kind of just lay the land for us?
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's so much information and there's a lot of people who think that they're fasting when they're actually intermittent fasting. There's lots of differences here. So first and foremost, intermittent fasting is a pretty large swath. It covers quite a bit of ground. When we talk about intermittent fasting, we're talking about a form of caloric restriction or food deprivation within a 48-hour period of time. So
Hmm.
anything done within 2 days that relates to designated feeding and or fasting times in a multitude of combinations, but that would be considered an intermittent fast. So time restricted eating is actually a form of intermittent fasting.
Got it.
Time restricted eating is generally done within a 24-hour period of time, though. So and this is the most common form of intermittent fasting that people follow, because essentially it's saying there are a consecutive period of hours in the 24-hour period of time that I am not eating food, and then there's another set of hours that I am eating food. So within the time restricted eating conversation, people often are in the longevity world, we talk about the 12-12 method. So 12 hours of eating, 12 hours of fasting. That would be essentially 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. would be when you ate, and then 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. would be when you would fast, which is like the overnight fast. Some people have gotten even stricter with their fasting windows. So lots of people are following the 14-10 method, which is essentially 14 hours of fasting, 10 hours of eating, or the 16-8.
Mhm. Yeah,
So those are all forms of time restricted eating, which are within the larger bucket of intermittent fasting.
perfect.
Um, when you talk about some benefits of intermittent fasting, just to kind of stay on this track for a second, intermittent fasting is wonderful for many different reasons. The primary component of it is helping your body to become better at flip-flopping between fuel sources. So it's a term we call internally, we call it metabolic flexibility. So generally speaking, when you are eating food, glucose is one of the most primary sources of fuel that we consume. Glucose is generally found in from carbohydrate or fruits or legumes and those types of foods. Our body really loves to use glucose. It's a wonderful source of fuel when used correctly, but um, it is helpful. We evolved to be able to switch into ketones, which is fat burning for fuel, and that switch between using glucose and using ketones is a really wonderful practice and muscle to strengthen within our body to help us to improve our metabolic profile in general, to our metabolism, it has wonderful benefits with heart health, with energy, all sorts of things. So it helps with that metabolic flexibility. A lot of people find that, simply by creating parameters within their when they eat and when they fast gives them a little bit more path to success for weight loss, which can have its own metabolic benefits as well. So there's lots of really wonderful things about intermittent fasting, and also, just to talk about evolution and how we evolved is, we were not meant to eat all the time. Humans weren't meant to. We did not evolve to consume food 24 hours a day. not that any of us really are consuming 24 hours a day, but we're consuming a lot. And I think a lot of us are doing it without really thinking too much about it too. And that consistent and regular feeding dulls our internal sensors, like our ability to utilize insulin, which is a hormone that helps to pull glucose into our cells. All of these different mechanisms become weakened when we are constantly having our digestive system turned on, right? So there's lots of really wonderful and powerful benefits to intermittent fasting. But just to fasting, so anything you do over the 48-hour mark, though, is technically a prolonged fast. So anything over 48 hours, usually between 2 days to 5 days, is kind of the sweet spot of a prolonged fast. Once you get into prolonged fasting, you start to not only benefit from all of the metabolic flexibility and the weight loss benefits and ketosis components of intermittent fasting, but now you're also leveraging these internal processes called autophagy. Autophagy is a fascinating internal mechanism that basically cleans up all of these dead and malfunctioning cell parts and things that are kind of slowing you down, contributing to things like chronic disease, fatigue, lack of energy, joint pain, all these things that kind of, your cells are, we need to clean them up. We need to do this spring cleaning every now and again. And when autophagy is activated, it goes and actually sweeps up and recycles these malfunctioning cell parts and replaces them with newer functioning parts. So, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's truly how we've evolved. This is how we've been able to survive as a human species. Because if you imagine when we, in our early human ancestors days, when we didn't have food, like we didn't have food for 3 days, right? But you still needed to hunt for food in order to get your food. How would you do that without the energy to do it? Autophagy is the cycle in our body that helped our cells say, oh, well, we still need to go fight for that elk once we, with very minimal energies. How are we going to do that? Make sure our body is functioning at the most optimal level possible, right? So autophagy is magic, and it's the sweet sauce of how we're helping to reduce things like chronic diseases and help to benefit our aging pathways. So that's what a prolonged fast and fasting mimicking diet is actually part of that.
For me, what I got is that prolonged piece.
Yes, is the sweet sauce.
Because now you're getting both those bennies that you shared
Yep.
and the
And the
autophagy
autophagy,
combined.
and you will not get autophagy anything less than 3 days of fasting. So a lot of people think they're getting all this, and you are getting a lot of benefits. I mean, there are don't undermine the fact that it's not either intermittent fasting or prolonged fasting or FMD. It's
Yeah,
both.
right.
Intermittent fasting is something that you can do every day. You can do a version of time restricted eating daily or weekly, and then a prolonged fast is something you do a couple times a year to really sweep it. It is not something you should do too frequently because it's a long time to go without food and your body needs to be nourished. It's not about
Mhm.
prolonged, restriction of this really powerful nutrients which food supplies, but doing it 3 times a year, once every quarter, huge benefits to reducing the risk of heart disease, diabetes, obesity. We're seeing some benefits on neuro benefits, like its effects on Alzheimer's and mental health. I mean, there's a million, and there we're just seeing the doors are only just beginning to open with all of the power that we're seeing with prolonged fasting and autophagy. Our target audience are people who would best benefit. So within L-nutra, we have two. We have segmented it into prevention
Okay.
and uh and management. So if you are otherwise a healthy individual and are really just looking to optimize your health, you don't have pre-existing conditions, you want to manage your weight a little bit better, you want to, improve that metabolic flexibility, Prolon is the track for you. You then yes, you would, we see people, I would say actually women, because we're fabulous, tend to be the best adopters of our programs here at L-nutra. But we run the gamut. We have people who are, we don't suggest you do it any earlier than 18, obviously, but for a variety of reasons we happy to chat with you about. But from 18 to 80, we have people using Prolon for prevention and just wellness in general. So Prolon's our consumer track for prevention. And then L-nutra Health is our medical division. And L-nutra Health is a series of personalized 360-degree lifestyle medicine programs that are specifically targeted for people with metabolic disease, diabetes, obesity. So you already have a chronic condition, or you're potentially have some markers that are putting you on track to getting there soon or within the next, couple of years. You'd be better suited for those programs because they don't just utilize our fasting mimicking diet, which I realize we haven't even talked about yet. Doesn't just utilize that, but it also gives you access to dietetic consults twice a month, medical oversight, laboratory review, medication reductions. We have a lot of people who are already on medications and want to start to wean off of them, and we help to facilitate that in our programs on the medical side. Yeah. So if you heard my earlier spiel and were like, oh my God, prolonged fasting, heck no, not for me, too
Right.
much, overwhelming, we hear you. And that's exactly why we created the fasting mimicking diet, because, to maximize the cellular rejuvenation benefits that fasting can offer you, you do have to go a long period of time in some sort of food deprivation. And that is really hard. It is really hard to go 3+ days without food. For a lot of people, it's not safe. It's not safe to have, especially people with metabolic disease and diabetes. There's hypoglycemic issues. There's so many things and also originally, actually, little fun tip for you. The fasting mimicking diet, which was created by Dr. Valter Longo, who's a researcher out of USC. He originally created the fasting mimicking diet initially to help cancer patients. They're oncology patients. So these
Mhm.
are the most immunocompromised, sensitive people who are already struggling to eat and consume food. Like, you don't want to deny them even more of that helpful nutrition. So the fasting mimicking diet was an answer to how can we hack the system internally? How can we get your body into cellular rejuvenation without actually depriving people of food? It's easier to follow. So essentially, the fasting mimicking diet is it's a 5-day program, and we have Prolon on the consumer side, and we have a different iteration of the fasting mimicking diet on the L-nutra Health medical side. But essentially, both of them are 5 days. Within those 5 days, you get a box for each day, and within that box are things like soups, bars, snacks, olives. There's a proprietary L drink. There's all sorts of really delicious, real foods that help you stick to that circadian eating pattern. You're gonna sit down for breakfast. You're gonna sit down for lunch. You're gonna have something for dinner. So it gives people this sense of, okay, I don't have to avoid food altogether. So there's a mental component there of, like, you get food, but you also are getting little bits of energy. So it's not such a shock to the system for a lot of people. But the real benefits of the FMD and the science behind our program is that because of the very, very precise nutrients that we're providing within the the cohesion of the soups and the snacks and all of the things that you get within each day, we are actually helping your body to bypass muscle breakdown. So which is critical. We have, I think, 37 clinical trials now. Almost every single one of our clinical trials has been able to reinforce the fact that our program targets visceral fat. So it's that fat around the abdomen, around the organs, the most dangerous type of fat associated with chronic disease. And on top of that, which is very hard to do, by the way, most other programs, if you're on GLP-1s, if you're following
I was going to ask.
even like Weight Watchers, or, if you're doing some sort of other caloric restriction, you are going to have, first of all, you can't guarantee the fat that you're losing is the problematic fat.
Mhm.
Yes, not all weight loss is the right type of weight loss, right? You're trying to target the type that is the most dangerous. So ours we've proven, okay, visceral fat is the fat that is being utilized on our program.
Right.
And we've noticed that the muscle that you have at the end of our program is protected. So there's a mechanism, not to get, I feel like I've gotten a little sciencey with you. I'm sorry if I have.
I'm tracking.
I hope you're tracking. Good. Okay. When our body is transitioning from glucose usage for fuel to fat usage for fuel, there is this period of time, this kind of like bridge, typically when no food is present. So generally with caloric restriction or actual water fasting, where your body will utilize amino acids for fuel before hitting this fat burning piece.
Hmm. Hmm.
When we utilize amino acids, that's muscle breakdown. We're taking fuel from muscle first before we're getting into this fat burning mode. That's really problematic for metabolic health in the long run because we need muscle is highly metabolically active. The more muscle you have, into older age, past the age of 65, the better chances you are of having a really long and healthy life. That's also been tracked in research. So we want to maintain that muscle mass. It burns more calories.
Hmm.
It helps with better body physique and positioning of where the fat lies on your body. There's so many benefits to, and also just that functional strength. You're able to actually you can protect the joints and muscles of your body when you're doing everyday things instead of, going and creaking your neck or twisting, your arm the wrong way when you're trying to, pull something out of your car, whatever. There's a lot of benefit to having that muscle tone, right? And our program in the FMD, we target visceral fat, we protect muscle. So when you are out of our program, you are not only cellularly younger than you were when you began our program because of autophagy, but you are metabolically more active. You have the right type of weight loss, the right type of muscle protection to actually have the sustainable weight loss over time. So that's kind of the magic of the FMD.
Yeah. And
Right.
that was so helpful. And to add, because I will put in pictures, and I have, one of my clients that has done it now, I think 5 times.
Yeah.
She's speaking to her experience, but I kept my boxes and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. It's all here. Like visually, it's beautiful. And, from a lot of people that are watching this, they came to our shop in Sauna Beach for water. So we do
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
hydrogen-rich water is
Mm-hmm.
like our thing.
So nice.
And so for so many years, people would come in and be on water fasts,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And so for the last 3 years myself, I would do a water fast over New Year's because it's just part of that spiritual cleansing, like
Yep.
going into the new year, making room,
Yep.
not
Yep.
just physical space, but mental space. And when I learned about the FMD, and I was like, wait,
There's an
why?
easy way to do this.
It's better than a water fast. Like, why? And the
Yeah.
why is
Yeah.
the muscle piece for sure, because
Yes.
I had spent so much time last year building the muscle.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to lose it all.
Yeah. It's hard
And
work. It takes a lot of time to build up muscle too. It's not something that comes back like super easy. You have to really dedicate time and space to it. So yeah.
I was like, wait, and I can eat too?
Mm-hmm. Delicious foods.
Yes. I
Yeah.
was like, the olives were phenomenal. I was
Yeah.
like, wait, and I was turning this around. I was like, oh, they're sourced from Italy.
Yes.
Like, delicious.
Yes. Yes. I know that you would never, I'm an olive gal too. I love olives, but I never thought olives could taste so good when you're, I mean, let's be real. The fasting mimicking diet still not easy. You're still in a caloric deficit. It still comes with its bumpy moments as your body's cleaning up. And I want to say that because it's for transparency. I mean, it is way easier than doing a water fast. It's healthier. It's the benefits of it in comparison to a water fast are far superior too. But it the more we build up a lot of sludge. I like to use that word not to like we're not dirty people, but we have so much sludge. We have emotional, mental, physical sludge that kind of just builds up over time. And it takes a while for that to get cleaned up and it doesn't always feel great when it's happening, right? Like when you're following the program, you're probably going to have some fatigue and maybe some joint pain and that what we call the keto flu as you're switching into that, ketosis, fat burning for fuel component too. So give yourself grace while you're on our program also, but it's the safety component is unless you're pregnant, obviously you shouldn't be doing this. If you're over 65, we suggest uh letting your physician know that you're doing it, although we do have people over 65 who follow our program safely and successfully. If you have a history of eating disorders, we suggest you proceed with caution. So there's people that we would suggest not do it, but for the vast majority of people, the fasting mimicking diet is the safe solution to get the benefits of fasting while actually still nourishing your body, which pretty powerful.
Yeah, can you speak to, because we have some clients on the GLP-1s, and
Mhm.
if there's any Dr. Longo or any research, anything, any stance that Prolong has on that?
Yeah. Yeah, we actually do have quite a few people within our program who are either on GLP-1s, weaning off of GLP-1s. Um, and I would say if you are one of the most critical questions to ask, or kind of two tracks I'll take, is why you're using the GLP-1s. There are some people that are using GLP-1s
Mm.
that aren't necessarily using it for the diabetic initial use case. They're using it for just simple weight loss. If that's your track, I would highly suggest you look into the FMD instead, only because for upwards of 40% of GLP-1 users not only have massive muscle loss, which is so metabolically if you ever wanted to get off of it, say it was something you wanted to use to kickstart a weight loss journey or a health journey, getting off of it is setting you three paces back. You might have lost weight while you were on it because your appetite's suppressed, you're not eating as much food, but that process degrades your muscle tone. So coming off of it it almost it sets you on a path to have to use it for a long period of time, and most people don't, because it doesn't feel great. There's nausea, there's other side effects related to GLP-1s that people have that really struggle with, and they can be, however, so for that use case, if you're wanting sustainable weight loss, wellness, I would highly suggest you consider the FMD, at least as your long-term plan. Perhaps if you're using the GLP-1s now to kind of kickstart your journey, and you're already on them, then consider, working with us. And we always welcome people in, and we can help you wean off of them and kind of pivot and start using FMD instead as your sustainable care plan. Um, for our people who have diabetes, metabolic disease, and are using it for as a medical purpose for that reason, we have medical doctors and a team of diabetes expert dietitians on our team who actually help to reduce GLP-1 medications over time as it's appropriate and sustainable for our patients, because there's very real clinical reasons why GLP-1s are helpful, right? And for a short period of time, so we never want to say it's us versus GLP-1s. A lot of times it's us together at first, and then we kind of help pivot you back into the FMD path, because we do know that our path is the more sustainable route.
Mhm.
Um, but it is important to work with a medical professional in that instance, because you don't want to. There are ways to use the FMD with GLP-1s that is strategic and specific to each individual. So we wouldn't want you to do, for instance, like the week that you're doing FMD, you certainly don't want to be on your GLP-1. So you would avoid the GLP-1 that week, right? But you obviously wouldn't want to do that without telling your medical
Mhm.
practitioners first, because they're so proceed with caution. If you're using it for an actual medical a medical purpose, we suggest you work with a medical team, and that's why L-nutra Health partly why L-nutra Health exists, is to help monitor you and make sure that you're doing it safely and you're doing it appropriately, and you're reducing your medications appropriately to your specific body. But for the other camp, I would say, Yeah, I would definitely say highly consider FMD as your sustainable route. Look at our research. We have a lot to share. And we're always happy to help those patients too on the weight loss side of things, prevention weight loss side of things to navigate the space too. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
And then
Yeah.
get support if you're on the diabetic insulin route
Yep.
and the wellness route. Maybe give this a whirl.
Yeah. Definitely give it a whirl. I think, especially with the state of GLP-1 access right now and just how the things going on in the government and the lack of access, it's way more expensive than and it's not necessarily going away. And yes, the FMD, a lot of people, it's funny. We the FMD, if you went actually L-nutra Health is the same way. You spend no more than 225, but that's even like most people can access Prolon. We do a lot of, promos and discounts and things like that for like 190. That's the cost of a week's worth of groceries for most people. So it's um I think people just need to reframe, how the FMD looks from a cost perspective. But I think, when with the GLP-1 industry going the way that it is and it becoming a lot harder to access and all of that, it's even more cost effective now, considering how much people are probably expected to pay for these medications moving forward.
Yeah, out of pocket. Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so I work in the gut brain axis and
Mm-hmm.
in the functional space. And so the emotional research, there is the behavior and well-being that you had on a slide that I was looking at. I don't know if can you speak to just how it can support the gut brain?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite questions. I'm also a gut health dietitian, so this is a topic near and dear to my heart. And prior to coming over and working on in L-nutra, I spent probably 6 years using FMD in my practice as part of my gut protocol. So, I have the practitioner's expertise too. Um, Behaviorally, there is some really interesting components that are happening uh when we use the FMD. So we do a lot of well, I'll start by saying we do have preclinical meaning in mice models. So we're still translating these into human. I like to call that out. Preclinical mouse models
Love it.
that look at the impact of 3 consecutive cycles of the FMD, which by the way, almost all of our research is looking at 3 consecutive cycles. Because when you're starting the FMD, you should, if you've never done it before, you should do 3 over the course of 3 consecutive months and then go into your 3 times a year maintenance phase after that. Just wanted to call that out.
Mhm.
But by doing it three consecutive times, there's a lot that's changing as it relates to our microbiome. At least from what our preclinical research is finding. So it is actually shifting because of the likely because of the different fuel source shifting into the different fuel sources that help to optimize the growth of the lactobacillus and bifidobacterium families. But the preclinical studies have found that the microbiome pretty drastically changes in favor of those beneficial microbes after the 5 days, and also we've been seeing, or those studies indicate a strengthened gut barrier too. So that the lining around our gut, the junctions that hold our gut together, are strengthened after our program too, probably because of the short chain fatty acids that are produced with the ketones that are happening, and we have a ton of nuts and seeds and healthy polyunsaturated fats that are part of our program,
Mhm.
that help to support that. So from a physiological perspective, we are seeing great initial evidence to support the FMD to support the changing landscape of the microbiome. And part of that too is that you're in this program, you're reducing processed foods, you're reducing sugar intake, you are reducing those daily spikes of glucose throughout the day that a lot of us are, this roller coaster of spikes that just for 5 days, it's amazing how much happens in 3 to 5 days. But from a behavioral perspective, when you are laying the land for the beneficial microbes to grow. You are also removing obstacles, or I guess you are cleaning up in a way these more problematic pathogenic bacteria that can I like to call it like a wet blanket. I deal with a lot of patients with fungal overgrowth, candida overgrowth. Yeah, when you have these problematic pathogenic bacterium or microbes in your gut, they kind of are like this wet, moist blanket that lay over your gut that make it very hard for serotonin to function properly, to for dopamine to be properly uh, um, created within the gut. All these things happen in the gut, by the way. 70% of our serotonin, dopamine, all of our neurotransmitter, most of our neurotransmitters start here, right?
Mhm.
um, it makes it a lot harder for your body to access and to convert these nutrients when we have these problematic microbes. So the initial evidence to show that these beneficial bacteria are coming in is a huge win. Like a lot of people are finding. So we do surveys with our customers and our patients. Um, Almost what 80% I think is the statistic of people that follow our program feel more energetic but also more motivated to make change. Like that is one of the most
Anna.
fabulous, like anecdotal pieces of evidence that people feel like, oh, healthy eating is easy for me to do. And part of that is like they come out with less sugar cravings. Most people are like, I don't really like, I'm usually a fiend for chocolate. And like I come off the program and I kind of bypassed dessert, didn't really like call to me that same way. And that's partially what's happening in the gut. Um, we also had a study recently that was actually looking at diabetic patients, but I find it's relevant for everybody. Um, we didn't even set out to find, or we didn't even set out to like look at this piece, but and that's probably why it's so even more fascinating to me is that we had um people who were following the people in this particular study that were following the FMD um had incredible insulin results, weight loss benefits, like muscle, all the things we've already talked about. But in addition to that, the people that were following the FMD increased their physical activity by 6 hours a week on average. And the people that didn't, but the people that didn't actually decreased when they were just following a regular caloric restricted diet, decreased their overall physical activity by 3 hours. So if you do the comparison, and we did not, that was not something we even set out to look at. And what we're finding is that people, because you are feeling stronger, you have that muscle protection, and you feel more confident. There's an achievement involved. Like when you there's just so much happening. There's gut changes, there's sugar reduction, there's self-confidence boosting components when you've achieved something that's decently difficult to do. And also you come out metabolically more active, so you have a different body physique. Your muscles are intact. You're lighter. You feel like you can go, and you just have this energy on day 5, day 6, where you're like, I could run a marathon right now, and I've never even trained for one. That's kind of how most people come out of the program feeling just so good. And that's something that we've seen has been able to sustain for we usually do our follow-up testing, 3 months later, and it's people are able to sustain these benefits over time, which is worth its weight in gold, in my
So the
opinion.
control group that was just doing intermittent fasting or do some version, they
Yes,
decreased their activity levels by three
by
hours.
3 hours a week versus the FMD participants increased by 6 hours a week.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
Nerd alert, but it's shocking.
It's crazy. Something's happening in the brain. We are doing so in the coming years we have a couple important tracks that are happening on the L-nutra health side.
Perfect.
Like IBS, IBD obviously are the two of the main ones that are coming up in short order. We have a PCOS track coming out, research coming out that hopefully will have its own programs within L-nutra health. But some of the other tracks are things like Alzheimer's, dementia, like the neuro degenerative diseases, which I think are um it's just all there. It's all interplay. It all interplays. It's
Mhm.
all connected. It all relates to one another. So anyway, I just wanted to call that out that there's lots coming up down the pike that we hopefully will have we know it's happening, but we never act before our research is developed. So we like to have the research to back up all of our programs and claims. So they'll be coming soon, which we're really excited about.
No, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, I'm personally excited about the Prolon 3,
Ooh, next gen?
the next gen, because
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet.
Yes.
So can you like just
Yeah.
give us a little taste of what's a little different? Because I did the first gen, which I
Yeah.
love.
Which the if you haven't done Prolon, I feel like it's almost like a rite of passage that you do the original
First
for,
gen? Okay.
yeah, just do, and you did it. You did it. But
Yeah.
like if you're coming in, if you really want to be part of our team, you got to do the original. It's like
Okay.
do the original. No, but next gen, and I say that because next gen's really great. So in that program, you actually have to rehydrate them before you eat them.
Yep.
Um, and that, over time, if you've done like me, I think I've done 18 plus Prolons myself.
Melanie.
So many. Too many, probably. But the soups kind of start to taste the same a little bit. Also, it's like, man, there's just something about like, oh, I have to rehydrate these soups that some people, especially over time, it's like, oh man, wish there was something a little bit more filling about them. Anyway, the next gen, the soups are completely ready to eat. So you don't have to rehydrate them. Essentially, we've just blended up the ingredients that are in the soups. You don't have to add water. You could even eat them cold. You can eat them out of the package or you can heat them up if you want to. So from a taste and flavor perspective, it's pretty great. I would say and it has like the chunks of food in there. So it kind of gives you more. I found that it makes you feel fuller for a longer period of time. I don't know if that's mental or not. I haven't tested that,
Mhm.
but just having like actual chunks of food like that really is wonderful. In addition to that, the soups within the next gen, it's the first time ever we can actually make the organic claim. Because the supply chain's much smaller, it's much shorter. In our other versions, we do source most of our ingredients, from Italy, from
Very
Europe.
quality. Yeah.
A lot of our ingredients within our products are organic, but we can't say the whole product is, especially because we use inulin in our other products, and inulin is notoriously you can't get the organic certification. So we can actually say finally our soups are 100% organic on the next gen side. And for those people who may have insulin sensitivities, which are not insulin, inulin sensitivities, excuse me, which is the fiber that we use in our other products, the soups in the next gen doesn't have the inulin. So it's a little bit lower in inulin, a little bit easier for people who might have insulin or inulin sensitivities to digest those soups. So I would say just from a flavor packed satiety perspective, the next gen is pretty exciting for especially for those of us who have been like yeah, dedicated Prolon users for a long time. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You guys are
Right.
ready.
Yeah. And eventually we'll have so we also have on the original side, we have the expanded variety, which I don't know if you've tried yet either. Have you tried expanded variety yet?
The expanded variety FMD?
Yes.
No.
So that version is the
Second.
normal or OG soups, but they also give you like the different, there's not just the one coconut honey bar. It gives you like the chocolate chip one. It gives
I've
you the,
tried those. Yeah. I've tried the
yeah, so
different bars. Yeah.
it uses those. It has the fasting shake instead of the second bar on the first day. So and we utilize in the expanded variety all of our fan favorite soups. So like all of the most top rated soups are in that version. So we'll be doing an expanded variety of next gen too as one of our next. So
Oh,
we'll be giving lots of, I think that's one of the main requests that we get is like people are ready for new flavors, new tastes within our products. We're trying to heed that request and give people what they want.
is she couldn't finish it, and she's got two
Okay.
autoimmune
Okay.
um, diagnoses, and she just was like tanked. She hit a wall on day two.
Mhm.
And so, like with our people that do have some chronic disease states, what would you just say, Melanie, before you?
Yeah, that's a really my mom actually had a similar issue when she followed the first time she followed Prolon. I would say this is when you should utilize, well, two things I'd say. This is definitely when you should utilize the 1 day reset first. The 1 day reset is we originally created it for the 5-2 intermittent fasting methods. We didn't really talk about that, but if you're fasting for 2 non-consecutive days of the week and then eating normal diet the other 5 days, that the 1 day reset's a great tool for you. But it's, I found as a practitioner dealing with patients who are very sensitive, and some that have toxic cups that are higher than others, or don't have as much wiggle room with
Yeah.
there's to each person is going to have a very unique experience, and you should heed that, listen to your body that way. The 1 day reset is a great tool for that. I would say start with, for patients that are a little bit more sensitive, people who might be a little nervous, it's a great dipping your toe in the water. I would say do the 1 day reset once a week for a couple weeks,
Okay.
just to get your body used to the um just it helps to not only get your body used to the ingredients, but it also gets your body used to the feeling and the switch over, because you are entering, for most people they can enter into ketosis around 12 hours, so you get that move. But I would also say spend a couple weeks doing intermittent fasting for a while if they're not already. um I would even go so far, from the longevity perspective, we always talk about the 12-12 being the gold standard. But for people who are maybe wanting to slowly increase their tolerance, I would say start at the 12-10, or sorry, 14-10. Yes, 14-10 mark, and then maybe do 14-10 with a 1 day reset for a couple weeks. Like on a Monday, do the 1 day reset, and they were doing 14-10 on the other days. Um, those are the two main things I'd say. And then, obviously, uh, if you have any people that are high on the sugar processed food train, that's a whole nother, component to add into that, to ensure that before you go into our program that you're spending some time prepping your body to, reduce the more toxic forms of, not to say all of them. There's a place for ultra processed foods sometimes for, different reasons, but um if you're relying a lot on those types of foods, or if you're not eating a mostly whole plant-based, food-based diet, I would say focusing there first is going to be helpful too. Yeah.
Is there anything that I didn't say or ask you that you needed to get out before we stop this?
Just that by even considering doing the FMD, you're a rock star. Yeah, people, yeah, the FMD is for the reason it exists in my brain is to, and it not even just my brain, our mission here is to give people the chance to live in a healthy body for a long period of time. It's not about living. I mean, it's one thing to live till you're 90 and you've been on multiple medications and haven't been able to move since you were 45. Like, we want you to be hiking Mount Kilimanjaro if you want to at age 90 and above, right? So this is about giving you more life that is meaningful. And this is a simple, sustainable, scientific way that we've proven to be able to do that.
Thank you so much, Miss Melanie. It was
Yeah,
such a
sure.
pleasure.
Likewise. I'm excited for your fast. Go.
Hello, everybody. It's Taylor, and I have a wonderful friend that I want to introduce you to. This is Christiana de Benedict, and she is the lovely lady that introduced me to Prolong. And I have her here because she's done it 4 times, the 5 day fasting mimicking diet. So I was like, God, girl, I need to talk to you about it. And she just completed her 4th round. And so I have her here to chat about it. So, Christiana, let's talk Prolong.
Yes.
Okay,
Thanks,
good.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Happy to be here and talking about Prolon.
Okay, amazing.
Where do we start?
So I wanted to ask you, take us back to like how you learned about it, because you showed it to
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you like what I initially thought when you first showed it to me.
Yes.
And then I have more questions, but yeah,
Okay.
take me back.
So I really started because, I'm in that time in my life where
Yeah.
I'm sort of, things are changing, and started to do some research, started to read some books.
So things are changing hormonally.
Hormonally, like premenopause.
Yeah.
And just really wanting to, learn more about my body. What can I do to support myself with
Yeah.
a lot of different new sort of physical and emotional, mental challenges
Yeah.
that I hadn't, dealt with before. Like
Yep.
my sleep wasn't good,
Yeah.
things were happening.
Okay, cool.
So, had a good friend of mine, someone else, who she and her husband had done Prolon, and we started talking about it. And that was actually how I learned about it.
Yeah.
And then I was reading Mindy Pelt's book, this one and another Mindy Pelt's book, and she's amazing, and learned a bit more about this particular type of fast, which is called the fasting mimicking diet.
Yes.
And Prolon is well referenced, well researched. It's out of USC, their Institute for I think it's aging.
Yeah.
And so
age.
longevity and aging. And I just decided I'm going to give this a try.
That's so cute. So I'm gonna. This is the Prolon box. I'm gonna stop the background video when I show you what's inside. But when she first showed it to me, where my brain went was to the military and to specific like packages that they were sent out, like dry
packaged
food, like freeze dried.
Yep.
And so I was like, I don't know.
You didn't expect that.
Well, that's what I was expecting.
Okay. Oh,
was
got
like,
it. Okay.
Was like very kind of like not delicious food. Okay, this is part to where we'll talk about our first experience in a second, but and lower quality is what I immediately thought. So we're going to talk about this in a bit, but that was my fear before I started to learn more about it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
And my first experience when I opened, so I did it last year.
Okay. I'm going to stop the background just so we can show you all.
Oh yeah. I did it last year, actually a year ago, and really came into it not sure, what to think or what I was going to be doing.
Okay.
But I felt very committed to trying something different.
Okay.
And seeing what a 5-day, like how would my body deal with a 5-day fast,
Had you ever done a fast before?
Not anything like this before.
Okay, so you've done like a 16.
I've done, intermittent fasting, but just for me, I just wasn't seeing the benefits.
Right.
And I was really, I just felt like, and especially after reading Mindy Pelt's book, really wanted to kind of see how my body would adjust and respond to a 5-day fast.
So when you went into this hopeful, like what were you hoping to see? Like if
I think probably first and foremost was definitely like I'd like to lose a couple pounds.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to.
For sure. Yeah, the visceral fat, like around the belly kind of stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And then I also think I was my friends who I mentioned, her partner had a lot of positive results with just anxiety and like the emotional side. And so that just kind of also I was like, really interested in how my body will respond to that.
Okay, yeah, cool. So this is what it looks like. Forgive me with my husband's drums in the back. So this is the package that comes to you. And so when you open it, I didn't eat all of them.
I want to see.
So it comes with like the little packet that you can, log on here. Did you ever scan it and do it?
Honestly, I did not.
Okay, that's okay. So I didn't either, but my mom did.
Okay.
And you have all these options to get like a coaching email every day.
Oh, I love
that. Which is like darling.
So maybe I'll try that in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it comes with the whole 5 days laid out exactly what's in each
which
of
is
one
very
of these
helpful.
packets.
And this you should definitely read. There's some good information here.
And so the food comes, ordered. So it's like day 1 through day 5. And like I referenced this little meal plan sheet. Yeah, what was in it every single day.
Yeah, every day. Yeah.
Didn't you?
Yeah. I think I developed a little bit of a routine around it.
Okay, so
I think my first experience was, I didn't have all my tricks down yet. So my first experience was I just kind of went into it, did just open the box and you sort of, tried to eat and spread out as much as you could, the food. But I definitely felt like that by the end of the day, some of those days I was like really hungry in the very beginning.
Okay.
But it definitely, you go through a process. And I would say like day 4, day 5 for me, every time I've done it has been significantly easier than days 1 and 3 were always the most challenge for me. But then by 4 and 5 for me, it was like, I wasn't even that hungry. Like on Thursday, I like felt like I was like, oh, I have to eat something. So my body definitely adjusted as I got through the entire cycle.
Yeah.
And I definitely wanted to eat less.
Tell me about your exercise during like this last week, or if you remember for
Yeah.
the first time.
Yeah. So I do like to exercise, and I like to do my cardio hip hop, as you know.
Oh, yes.
But I had to just kind of step away from any cardio. It was too much. It felt like too much on my body. So every time I've done it, I still do walks. I take my dog for a walk. I will do yoga. I'll do stretching. But really kind of I feel like I've evolved now in my whole approach around Prolon. And so I did it the first time 3 months in a row. So I did a 5-day fast in, I can't remember when I started, but I'm going to say March, maybe March, April, May. And definitely learned more tricks in that period around, eating a little bit, like holding some of the food sometimes till a little bit later. And that helped me a lot. Using seasoning, like using seasoning in the soups. Actually, the soups are pretty good.
Yeah.
And yeah, the salt, actually salt like on the bars and stuff at night. Just a little bit because you are allowed.
Right.
Cinnamon in the coffee because you can't put any milk or anything like that, but you can still get a really nice, Americano or espresso or, something that's like creamy on top and little cinnamon.
So my Italian and the Latina come out. They're like flavor.
Yeah, it needs flavor. So, I had like a couple more tricks in terms of how I approach the food. But this time around, this last time, I actually think it's like it's a mental approach, and really embracing this time more fully for self-reflection, self-care.
Yeah.
Doing like a massage one of the nights. Really embracing this period so that you can kind of fully embrace the transition aspect of it, not only physically, but also just sort of mentally and emotionally. And I think that was I think a really important approach that has helped me and one that makes me feel like I want to sustain this going forward.
Oh, I mean, this is why you just sit down and chat, because you know what I'm seeing as you're talking is like just this window, like you said it, because I knew your husband was away too.
Yes.
And so it was like this little boundary.
Yes.
Of like, for Christiana.
Yes, a full sort of reset.
Yeah.
And one other thing I think that's really important too for anyone thinking about doing this, and especially for any women, what I loved about Mindy Pelt's book and about the fasting is that she orients everything around our cycles.
Yes.
And that I think is really critical. And I've done that with Prolon.
Okay.
So I do track my cycle, and then I do align the fasting with the periods that are the power periods, which are the it's like in the beginning.
Yep.
And then there's a window in between, like ovulation and then when you get your period.
Yeah.
So there's, she's got all that information online, but if you kind of track
phase,
that,
is the beginning phase.
Yeah, there's like power, and then
she named some different.
Yeah, maybe there's like maybe I'm thinking of it, but aligning with your cycle, I also think is a good strategy.
Okay, perfect. So maybe that I'll include that in some information for people so they can know exactly, because if you track, it's like, okay.
Yeah, when's the best time? Yeah, so you're not stressing. And that's what she talks about is like if you're doing fasting
Right.
when your body is, in a period where it needs to not be fasting,
Right.
or, is kind of getting ready, you're almost to the point of getting your period,
Yeah.
you could be creating more stress.
Yeah.
And that can increase your cortisol levels. And
Mhm.
so we really want to try to line, the
Mhm.
fasting
Right.
with the cycle.
Love it.
Yeah.
Such good pro tips. So I wanted to share a little bit since we actually haven't talked about it. Is
I know, I'm so
my-
curious.
So
Yeah.
I went from like thinking that this was going to be like a military diet with like shit quality food
Yeah.
to learning about Dr. Walter Longo and
Yeah.
his 30 years of relentless research.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is,
Yeah.
and then I got my little packets and I had the first bite of that nut bar and I was like, wait, this is soft and chewy and delicious.
Yeah.
And then I had the Italian olives and I looked, or I had the olives and I love olives. We both
Yeah. No,
studied
we love
abroad
olives.
and,
Yeah.
and so I turned it around and it was like, oh, imported from Italy. And I was like, oh, so he's just not messing around with the ingredients.
No.
They're really
The
trying
ingredients
to
are great.
make it tasty.
It's tasty.
So the only thing that I will say, and my mom said the same thing, it's
Okay,
like
let's hear it.
the minestrone. Some
Mm,
of the ones like they
yeah.
don't really get
soft.
soft.
Like the minestrone one with the peas.
With the peas,
Yeah, the
you
peas
know,
don't. That's true.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's a little bit, crunchy. So you're kind of like,
Yeah, you got a little bit of crunch.
yeah,
That's true.
right?
But I will say one other tip.
Okay.
So the first 3 times I did just the typical, they just have like this is probably that
The classic
one, the
one,
classic,
traditional,
traditional
yeah.
one. But this last one, I got the expanded,
Right.
I think it's called expanded version or
Okay,
something.
yeah.
And I really liked that one.
Okay.
And I do really recommend that.
Good.
And here's the reason why. Because the soups come with a little tablespoon of olive oil.
Ooh.
And so I'm telling you, this will get you through. Like,
Right.
you do the soup and then add a little olive oil, little salt and pepper, good to go.
Oh, see. Yeah. And so I did water fast the last couple years.
Yeah.
And so the idea was like with the fasting mimicking, we don't lose our lean muscle mass. So this last year,
Yeah.
I really tried to add on some lean muscle mass, like get my enough protein in.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to lose it this year.
Right.
Which is why I
Right.
decided to try the
That makes a
5-day
lot of sense.
fast.
Yep.
So unlike my girlfriend here, Christiana, I did fine. Day one, I was like, oh, in the bag. I'm like, you give me olives for snacks and nut bars and all this food, like
Yeah.
I felt like,
Yeah.
because I kept thinking about my water fasting and I couldn't eat
Right.
anything.
Right.
Oh, and I get to have my coffee. I'm good,
Yeah.
right? So day 2, I'm fine. I did my hot yoga, fine.
Okay.
Wednesday was a little bit tougher. Thursday, I was starting to get I kind of get like I'm kind of like over this
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I am a foodie, I'm an eater.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like I'm ready for,
Right.
well, I did a boo-boo
Uh-oh.
and I did my HIIT workout.
Oh,
I think on either Thursday or Friday.
that might be that you were probably very hungry.
I it pushed me too hard.
Yeah,
There
that's
was
too much.
a moment, my mom cited this too, where I had a little bit of heart palpitations,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We were stressing like my mom.
There was too much
It was
stress on your body.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
too much stress on my mom's body. She's 72
Yeah.
and she has some autoimmune issues. So it was 2 days on this was too much for her, but I'm going to talk to her about like, maybe
Yeah,
just
I don't-
doing a modified.
I think just like like I said, I think you just really embrace this time as a slowing down period.
Love that.
And I think that it's even
Gentle.
just be gentle. Because you don't, I feel like if you push yourself too much,
Yeah.
it's just, you don't have the total reserves.
Exactly.
And even I felt that, we have stairs in our home and, it's like by that last day,
Yeah.
your body is also you feel very light. Like you feel
Yeah.
I felt very clear and,
Yes.
but you can get lightheaded. Like if you
Okay. Yeah.
if it's too strenuous, anything, like getting up too quickly,
Yeah.
you just want to be really slow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I loved this conversation with you, Christiana. I felt like I am now going to be a better prolonger.
A prolonger. That's
So
awesome.
uh,
Maybe we could do a prolonger group.
exactly. So that's where I'm going to have and see if Christiana, when I do my next group, if she can join us and just be in our little WhatsApp chat.
I would
Uh,
love to participate.
Okay, sweet. All right. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for listening, and happy prolonging.